some new data from the Wall Street Journal finding that so far this year, 48 top executives have collected more than $200 million each from stock sales, more than quadrupling the average over the last 4 years. Joining us right now is Paul Hickey, who's the co-founder of Bespoke Investment Group. Good morning to you. What do you make of all these sales? Is this a tax story? But you look at, a Larry Page or an Elon Musk and everybody. What's going on here?
Yeah, so who isn't selling these days, it seems, as far as the insiders, at least that's what the headlines are telling us. And I think some of it does stem from taxes. But look, Andrew, when you think about it, nobody is arguing that the market is exceptionally cheap at this point. It's just the fact that there's not a whole lot of other alternatives. And especially in the large cap space, the valuations are expensive. Within the market, though, there are some areas that are more attractive than others. You look at small caps, and people refer to small caps as the Russell 2000 and talk about the average PE there, which is over 60 times earnings. But within the S&P 600, which has more companies with earnings and less companies without earnings, your valuations are trading at some of their cheapest levels relative to large caps in the last 25 years. The only times the S&P 600 has had a cheaper valuation relative to the S&P 500 were in Q3 of last year, right before a strong rally, and then back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I think in the large cap sector, some of these stocks are trading at valuations that you wouldn't consider necessarily attractive at these levels. But there are areas, if you look within individual stocks at the lower market cap levels, some more attractive opportunities.
But Paul, historically, when you've seen insiders sell, that has usually been a high sign that this is something that maybe you should also be selling. Is that the case in this instance?
I honestly, I don't know there. Like, if you look in 99, 2000, that's what this article would point to, and that's what always people point to as the high levels of insider selling. But throughout the last 20 years, there's been plenty of periods where we've seen that insiders have been selling, and it hasn't necessarily been a negative signal. Just look, back in May, we saw big levels of insider selling according to these metrics, and market has continued to do relatively well from there. So I don't think it would necessarily be the be all or end all. That specific indicator being something that you should make your investment decisions on. There's plenty of other things to focus on here, especially inflation and the Fed coming up next week.
To the extent that there is selling going on right now as a result of taxes, which might be a situation because some people are expecting potentially higher taxes in the new year, is that creating opportunities? Are there specific stocks you think where people should be looking?
Yeah, so I think, that's a great point. Taxes are not going down in the future. I think we can all agree on that. And you can look at some stocks that this year may have been under pressure because investors are taking losses. You have some stocks that have done very well. People are taking gains. But look at a stock like Boeing that has been very impacted by COVID. But now towards the end of the year, the stock hasn't done well. People are taking losses in the stock to offset gains. So that's a stock we're going forward into next year. You could see that impact of tax loss selling abate and see the stock do better going forward from here. So I think that's one stock you could look at as an opportunity. And travel, even with the headlines increased Omicron variant and fears over what it's going to impact, we haven't seen a big decline in air travel in the last 2 weeks relative to 2019 levels. We're still about 20% off those levels, which is what we were right before Thanksgiving. So I wouldn't. So that's an encouraging signal that people are still willing to travel. And when you talk to people for business travel, it is starting to pick up. People are not, staying home and doing all their business via Zoom.